Saru had a fascinating life before Star Trek Discovery. When Star Trek Discovery introduced Saru, fans immediately recognized that Doug Jones's towering, soft-spoken Kelpian was unlike any Starfleet officer seen before. Saru was a creature of contradictions, cautious yet courageous, fearful yet principled, alien yet deeply empathetic. But what truly set him apart was that his Starfleet story didn't begin with a privileged upbringing or a Federation colony. It began on a pre-warp world where survival meant submission. Long before he became the first of his species to join Starfleet, Saru lived a life defined by ritual, oppression, and the seemingly unbreakable cycle of predator and prey. And that hidden life, explored in canon and expanded through novels, reveals a fascinating prelude that makes his rise as a Starfleet captain even more remarkable. The Kelpian Dilemma. On his homeworld of Kaminar, Saru's people were known as Kelpians, a prey species that evolved for survival. Physically graceful, tall, and agile, Kelpians had heightened senses and a biological feature known as threat ganglia, which extended from the back of their heads whenever danger approached. This evolutionary adaptation came with a tragic consequence. They lived under constant awareness of death. But the greatest threat wasn't just the predatory balance of the ecosystem, it was the social order imposed by the Ba'ul. The Ba'ul, technologically advanced and terrifying in appearance, ruled Kaminar with absolute dominance. Through ritualized culling, they maintained control over the Kelpians, convincing them that submission and sacrifice were their only path to balance. Every Kelpian grew up knowing that one day they would be taken away during the Great Balance, never to return. For Saru, growing up in this environment meant living with the knowledge that his destiny was not his own. He was born into fear, raised to believe his existence was fleeting, and taught that questioning the Baal was an act of heresy. Yet, even in this oppressive system, he couldn't stop himself from asking, why must it be this way? Saru the outsider. Unlike many of his peers, Saru never accepted the culling as natural. Where others prayed and resigned themselves to fate, he sought answers. He took apart bold technology that washed ashore, studying its parts with curiosity instead of fear. His mind was always reaching beyond Kaminar's horizon. This made him an outsider among his people. To his father, a devout priest who enforced the Baal's rituals, Saru's questions were dangerous, even sacrilegious. His family urged him to conform, to keep quiet, and to survive by obedience. But Saru's spirit wouldn't bend. He wanted to understand the stars, not worship them from afar. That hunger for knowledge, dangerous as it was, set him on the path that would change not only his life, but the future of his species. A risk that changed everything. Saru's defiance led him to a bold decision. He used scavenged Baal technology to send a signal into the stars. It was a gamble, an act of rebellion that could have brought destruction to his people if discovered. But instead of the Baal responding, Starfleet did. On the other end of that signal was Lieutenant Philippa Georgiou, who saw in Saru not just a curious mind, but a potential Starfleet officer. For the first time, someone from beyond Kaminar acknowledged his individuality, offering him a path out of the cage he had been born into. Georgiou arranged for him to leave Kaminar under Federation asylum, making him the first Kelpian ever to step off his planet willingly. This decision was not easy. Leaving meant abandoning his family, his culture, and the only world he had ever known. It meant exile. But for Saru, exile was freedom. He chose uncertainty among the stars over a certain death under the Ba'ul. That single act of courage, redefining his life as something other than prey, became the foundation of his Starfleet journey. From prey to protector, Saru's pre-discovery life wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. The years of fear shaped his cautious nature, but they also honed his empathy. He knew what it was to live under oppression, to feel powerless, and to yearn for something greater. That understanding carried into his Starfleet career, where he often served as the moral compass for his crew. Even his biology became a metaphor for his growth. When his threat ganglia eventually fell away, ending his people's evolutionary cycle of fear, it symbolized Saru's transformation from prey to protector. But the roots of that metamorphosis lay in his past. Those years on Kaminar where he learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Why his backstory matters. Saru's story before Discovery makes him one of the most compelling Star Trek characters ever created. He wasn't born into privilege like Picard, nor into tradition like Worf. He wasn't even raised in a